This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Ungrateful Bud.
I am an alcoholic, and my name is Bud, and I didn't know whether they had introduced me by my full name or not, but thank God they did. I got the name Ungrateful Bud early in Alcoholics Anonymous because my attitude was a hell of a lot like Kevin's that he just told us about. I didn't like anybody or anything, and I was not grateful to be here, and so I was given the name Ungrateful, and it stuck. I didn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous. I was brought here, Kevin, by my attorney, who's alcoholic, and he didn't tell me what he was about to do to me, and I always like to talk to the new people. And there were what time is it? Michelle does. She's sort of like in charge, you know, and she told me that they're getting the hook already, I guess. Anyway, what time do I have to quit? And what time is it now? Quarter after. So I got, what, 45 minutes? Okay, I know what I have to do for the next 45 minutes. What I don't know is what you have to do. So if you finish ahead of me, go ahead. It'll be all right. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. There are no rules. And but anyway, when this, I'd like to welcome the four new people that I got. I got Greg, and I sounded like Rashar, and then the guy in the back sounded like Hi. I guess it could have been Ty, and then Tony. Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. You're not my kind of newcomer. I couldn't stand up and say that bad word. I didn't stand up when they asked for new folks, and so you're not my kind of newcomer. I'd like to welcome the four people that didn't stand up here tonight and tell you that you're especially welcome in Alcoholics Anonymous because you're doing this thing right. That's exactly the way I did it. You probably haven't, like Kevin, you haven't met anybody you liked or liked anybody you met, and you're pissed off at the speaker and you haven't even heard his sick story yet, and you got the right attitude. You're home. You'll do fine, right along with Kevin and me. And anyway, after you're here for a while, they're going to explain to you new guys that you're diseased, and that you got a disease of a twofold nature, allergy of the body coupled with an obsession of the mind. In my case, it turned out to be twofold also, an allergy of the body coupled with an absence of the mind, but that sort of happens to social drinkers of my type. So anyway, what they don't tell you in Alcoholics Anonymous is that they say keep coming back, and more will be revealed to you, and that's what this thing has been for me, a series of revelations all about Bud, the real Bud, the guy I didn't know. But what they don't tell you, that alcoholism, and the book doesn't mention it either. Do we have the book here, I hope? Is that alcoholism is a contagious disease caught in rooms like this from people like these. And if you don't want alcoholism, you have to stay out of these rooms, because alkies are very strange folks. They love to infect other people with their disease, you know. And that's why they say in Alcoholics Anonymous, keep coming back, see? And of course, once you catch their damn disease, you're stuck with it forever. And then you have to keep coming back and hope some dummy will come up to you and say, hey, would you be my sponsor, Mike? And then always say, hell yes, and then infect him or her. And then you'll start feeling better. I didn't start feeling better in Alcoholics Anonymous until I started trying to infect other people. And I do it at the drop of a hat. Man, I've tried to infect people that don't even drink. It doesn't work, but, you know, here, take some of this. And try to infect one of those Al-Anon ladies. That'll get you going. And that doesn't work either. Anyway, I better get on with that. So anyway, this lawyer brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous. It was revealed to me after I was there for a short while that I had never, ever had need of a lawyer, except that it was in some way connected with booze or drinking. And so as he's hauling me around to these meetings, that big revelation came to me, and I said, you know, you're not all that smart as a lawyer. I said, you know, you get me sober. I told him, I said, you know, I never needed a lawyer unless it was connected with booze some way. And then the wreckage of my past started showing up, and I found out that I couldn't fire him after all. I still needed him. So anyway, after I went to 17 meetings before I'd had enough infections that I recognized, and I could stand up and say, my name's Bud, and I'm you know what. And so then I'm bobbing up and down for the next 13 days, and I went to a meeting every day. And I was so sick that I didn't learn Alcoholics Anonymous right away as one drunk talking to another. And these men's discussion, ladies' discussion, men's stag, ladies' stag, round table, book study, step study. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. Speaker meetings are just sort of great places to hide out, you know, sort of half measures. But you do get to hear some of the sicker people. And so anyway, I was going to these damn speaker meetings, and it was my 30th day. And I stood up and I said, when they asked for the new guys, and I said, I'm happy to announce this is my 30th day and I can stop this damn bobbing up and down. And I sat down. And the gal that was leading that meeting that night, and the gal that was the speaker, sort of a lot like Michelle, and they had a little coffee break. And then when they came back from the coffee break, they read their traditions. And so the gal that was leading the meeting that night and the gal that was speaking, they got together at the coffee break. So when they came back from the coffee break, they said, could we have the 30-day miracle up here? He needs help. And so I thought, well, after 30 days in AA, you finally get recognized. And so anyway, I went up there and they said, you got to read the 12 traditions. I said, I've never done that. And she looked at me like sort of Michelle did, and she said, you never say no in Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, I didn't know what they'd do, take their damn 30 days away and make me start over or something. And so I read the 12 traditions and got through. The gal said, that wasn't too bad. She said, you got to keep it doing it till you get it right. She said, do you have a sponsor? And I figured that damn lawyer that infected me was I said, yeah, I didn't fall off the turnip truck. I said, yeah, I got a sponsor. She said, we now have 2 self-appointed spiritual advisors. And so every time this gal went somewhere to talk, and she talked a lot all over Southern California, she'd call me and I'd have to go along and read their traditions. Now, I thought that's the way this thing works in AA. If you get asked to talk somewhere, you bring your tradition reader with you. And I still do that to this day. And I thought Dick did a hell of a job, you know. And besides that, he's a good driver. I don't know how he got us up here in 55 minutes, but, man, he really drives. But he's been sober a little while now. He's going to celebrate 14 in April. And if I make it till April 21st, I'll celebrate number 39. Whoa. And that's a new record for me. Kevin. And I'm not nearly as pissed off as I used to be. So. Anyway, I read, as a matter of fact, Michelle, I don't know how long she's been sober. Maybe you heard me read the traditions somewhere, because I used to read the traditions for Sue. Anyway, I was sober about 6 months, and we ended up in Costa Base one night. She said, Bud, they got a 10-minute talker tonight, and you're it. And I said, what do you think I ought to talk about? She said, why don't you tell them what you used to be like, what happened, and what you're like now? I said, well, you used to drink too much, came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and now I read the traditions. That's not going to take 10 minutes. She said, just kind of do the best you can. So anyway, I talked, and a guy came up to me after the meeting. He said, Bud, he said, I really did like what you had to say, but he said when you told what you used to be like, what happened, and what you're like now, he said, I could not tell where you made those transitions. And so my story sort of disclosed in a general way what I used to be like, what happened, and how little I've changed. But if you don't take a drink one day at a time, it stacks up into 38 years, 7 months, and 19 days. Big changes take place. And I was important in Alcoholics Anonymous to talk about your bottom, and I was born on the 18th of December, 1929, in the Panhandle of Texas, and that's where I hit bottom. Start right off there at the bottom, and then there's no place to go but up, you know. So anyway, my parents left the sovereign state of Texas when I was 3, so I don't know much about that place, but they moved to the Panhandle of New Mexico. You know, a guy said to me one night, he said, Buddy, you know what really burns my ass? And I said, no, what? He said, a grass fire about this high. And that's kind of been the story of my life, and because I always had one burning mind, and you know, I'd think, well, I'll outgrow this one, and somebody'd come by and set a little bit higher grass fire, and until I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, and they changed. They used to call me Old Grass Fire Bud. You know, look out, he's here, and they changed it to Ungrateful. So anyway, but my parents moved to the Panhandle of New Mexico, and grass fires got higher and hotter, and this neighborhood that we moved into, it's important to give you a little thumbnail sketch of my family and neighborhood. I'm one of 11 children. I'm the only alcoholic in the bunch. Now you can say, oh. Oh, there are a few drunks scattered around the group, but I'm the only alkie. But anyway, when you come from a large family like that, your birthday doesn't often get remembered anyway. But when it comes 1 week before the birthday, it gets forgotten a lot. And boy, that was a grass fire for me. And I was not aware of how much of a grass fire it was until I got to that Friday night men's stag in Anaheim. And they started talking this one night about these rotten folks that we alkies get associated with, well-meaning mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and, you know, husbands and wives and the rotten enablers that kill us. And I'm telling them about this bad deal. Poor little old Bud, born on the wrong side of the tracks. Nobody ever loved me, even remembered my damn birthday. And tender, loving bunch of guys in Anaheim, Friday night stag, and they said, Bud, I want to tell you something. Your natal birthday is meaningless, but you're now an Alcoholics Anonymous. Tell you what else we've done for you. If you get any grass fires over this new birthday, we're going to let you go out tomorrow and have another one. If you don't like that one, you go out the next day and you find another one. And when you find one you like, come on back in here. We're going to sing happy birthday to you every year. And if I make it till April 21st, they'll sing for the 39th time, and it'll sound probably as bad as you guys did here tonight. But it's music to the alcoholic ear, and I loved it, so I always join in. So anyway, he took me to this damn speaker meeting, and Chuck C's old home group on Wednesday night. It was my first meeting, and they opened the damn thing by praying over us, and I wasn't too impressed with that. And then they read 10 of these and 12 of these and 3 of those, and obviously had this Catholic-type ritual they had to get through. And and then after they got through with all that reading, they hauled out this birthday cake. And they sang happy birthday to this old toothless wonder. And had 13 candles on it. They said he was 13. He was 85 if he was a day. But they said he was 13. Anyway, he got him up on the stage, and he finally got the candles all blown out, and then he gummed a couple of things, and then they got him down off the stage, and then they called on this guy to talk. Now, the guy they called on to talk was a Catholic priest in uniform, had on the white collar and all that. And I thought, God, the Catholics are out to get me again. They'd had me a couple of times, and I've been Catholic several times. Anyway, every time I got a new wife, I got a new religion. And so anyway, maybe I'll have time to get into some of that. Anyway, so it's this Catholic priest, and his name was Father Barney. Father Barney's dead now, but he stood up there in front of that group of 200 people, and he preached is what he did. And the only thing I heard Father Barney say that night was, "I never had any damn pink clouds." Now, that's just the way the priest talked. And so, I was sober a little while. Now the reason I hadn't heard, I was sober a little while, and I found out they taped that meeting. I thought, well, you better buy that tape and listen to it and see what the hell happened. So I did buy that tape, and sure enough, about 3 times in that talk, Father Barney said, "Never had any damn pink clouds," about 3 times. And the reason I hadn't heard anything is because the text of his sermon that night was, "Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand him." And he went on from there. Well, I don't know about you, but at my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, I wasn't ready for that. And I didn't hear that either. So anyway, they finally got him shut up, and then they they passed the basket. I recognized that one right away, and wondered how much he got for that lousy talk. But I got even with him. I didn't put in. And so anyway, they got the money all collected. Now, when they had started the meeting, they asked for newcomers and old-timers and out-of-towners and Alzheimer's. They asked for people I'd never even heard of. And I'd noticed that this gal sitting on my left, she didn't stand up for anything either. So I figured she's like I am, social drinker, checking this thing out, Mike. And so anyway, so at the end of they got Father Barney down, and so at the end of the meeting, they're going to pray over us again. So only this time they grab your hand on either side. And so they prayed over us, and at the end of the prayer, she gave it a little squeeze. So I thought, here we go again, But the guy on the right gave it a little squeeze, too. I figured Laguna Beach, what the hell. And so got out of there as quick as I could, and came back the next week, and I couldn't believe it, because it was another Catholic priest in uniform. I don't know, I called her an old bit. I thought, man, once you've been Catholic, they don't give up. And only this guy's name's Terry, young guy from Los Angeles. He's not so young anymore, but he's still in Alcoholics Anonymous, but he doesn't. I noticed that Terry doesn't wear that uniform anymore when he talks. He talks like regular street alkie clothes, like any respectable alkie should, And so anyway, old Terry stood up there in front of that group of 200 people. He told things I don't think I would have told at a stag. And I thought he was the worst thing I'd ever heard in my life. And I just loved the guy. So anyway, the revelations kept coming, and I'm driving home alone this one night, and the speaker had been one of those guys that lost it all, been in the penitentiary, came back, finally got sober, lost the wife, lost everything, and they didn't come back. And I said, well, bud, you don't belong here. That never happened to you. But the truth of the matter is that wife that I was driving home to, and I had a car, was my third wife. And how this thing works, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, my honesty started dwindling away to what it really was. I thought I was 100% in all those areas. I was 0. So anyway, the other part of my story that's important, from that neighborhood that we moved into when I was a kid. In this neighborhood we moved into, everybody in the neighborhood had outdoor facilities. Now, outdoor facilities have to set out back in the back about 100 yards to sort of get away from the smell. But in our neighborhood, if your outdoor facility was a two-holer, you were considered class. Now, our neighborhood had a two-holer, not because we were so classy, but of necessity. If you got a large family of kids like that, you better have a two-holer. And and we had a two-holer. And so I was sober, I don't know, maybe 10 years, and one of my younger brothers was out here and embarrassed me one night in front of my friends. He said, "Bud, do you remember the night you burned down the two-holer?" Well, I mean, you know, there's not a lot of class, even in Alcoholics Anonymous, talking about burning down two-holers. And here's the way this thing happened. Back there, and it's cold during the wintertime. And before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I could not share my fears with you because macho men aren't afraid of hell, death, nor the grave. The truth of the matter is I was terrified of the dark, because I knew they were out there. I didn't know who they were, but I knew they were there. And so what I would do, if I had to make that run in the middle of the night, I'd con one of these younger brothers into making a run, because I figured that whoever they were, they'd catch him and eat him first, and I'd get away. So I conned this younger brother into making the run. So we get out there, and I post him at guard, and I'm sitting there taking care of business, and that Sears catalog works for a lot of things. It's great for the cleanup job. It's a good picture book during the daytime, but not too good at night. And if you handle that sucker right and you tear off one page at a time and you crumple it, and you can only steal a couple of her wooden kitchen matches, because if too many of those come up missing, she gets suspicious. So I stole my two wooden kitchen matches, got my guard with me, and I'm sitting there taking care of business. And I got my page of the Sears catalog crumpled, and if you burn one page at a time, it kind of takes the chill off of that place. So I got my heater going, and I'm sitting there taking care of business, being comfortable, and the damn heater got away from me. Up she went. I was the first one out, beat him out. He apparently almost went up with it. Left a hell of an impression on him. Man's never had a drink in his life. Became a minister of the Holy Gospel. Weird dude. Anyway, that was the neighborhood. And the other weird thing about me was I did well in school. And that's kind of been revealed to me since I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. I really don't think I was all that good a student, but God, I was fascinated by those indoor facilities. Because when you got to school, you know, they flipped those lights on. They didn't have fluorescent, but they had incandescent, and I was impressed with that. And those other facilities, when you got through, you just turn around and flush it. I used to wonder, where does it go? Because at home, it's there tomorrow and the next day and next month and next week and ad infinitum. You know, I knew about ad infinitum before I got here and met you. So anyway, my family had never had a kid graduate from high school, but they had never had a kid as fascinated with indoor facilities as I was either. So anyway, they didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what they were doing. I always kind of figured my real mom and dad would come by someday and pick me up. I couldn't figure out why they had left me off in that family, you know. But anyway, that's the way it started for me. So I started to drink. How much time do I have?
10 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay. We got to move fast. All right. So I first got married as a teenager. I always kind of felt born married. And my first wife was Catholic, so I became Catholic again. And the Catholics got to me the first time when I was 4 days old. And only they didn't check with me, they just did it. And then they sprinkled me and they said, "You're Catholic forever." And then when I was 11, the Baptists got to me and they said, "No, these Catholics really screwed it up bad," and so they dunked me. And so I became a born-again Baptist. And And anyway, so when I finally got married the first time, married a Catholic, so I became Catholic again. Now, one of the things that Catholics can never, ever do is get a divorce. But if you drink like I drink, even those Catholic ladies will unload you after a while. They don't care what the church says. So anyway, so I was Catholic for 13 years, lacking 2 months. Anyway, so what I did after she unloaded me, I moved in with the second lady and started what's called, because interlocutory final decree takes a year back then. I don't know who they made the laws for. I understand they're more reasonable now. Anyway, so I moved in with this second lady and started the California marriage. And I couldn't handle the California marriage because their 16-year-old daughter's living with us. And here I am, pillar of the community, setting this bad example for this little girl. And so I loaded her in her new Oldsmobile and drove to Las Vegas and became a bigamist is what I did. But I felt okay about that. I'd solved that problem. And so then finally the year's up. I'm married to her twice. I got the bigamy marriage. I got the California marriage, but I'm not really married to her. So I ran up to L.A. to a courthouse, picked up another marriage certificate, ran back to Orange County, got married in Orange County. It's going to be a real California marriage, and it's going to last forever. And that was 3 months I was Presbyterian. The Presbyterian ladies catch on a lot quicker, and I got home at 2:30 this particular morning, and my key didn't fit her new door. And there sat my stuff in the middle of the street. And my 54 Pontiac wasn't running at that time. It had been in a little altercation. And so I called up this buddy of mine, and I had this old Army desk that I picked up in a garage sale one Saturday morning in Laguna Beach for $15. So anyway, he brought his pickup over, and we loaded my Army desk in and stuff, and away we went. And I'd always go down and counterfile just in case they dropped the ball. You can go right through with the countersuit. I had a knack for marrying non-drinking women. I didn't know they were called Al-Anons. And so anyway, they don't drop the ball. Never ever had to use a countersuit. Are there any of them here tonight? So anyway, so I found this new lady, and I thought, well, the first wife had been my age, obviously wrong. Second wife had been the older woman that can love you and take good care of you. And she was, and she did for 3 months. And so I figured what I ought to do is find a young one and train her. And it was at this point that I spotted Ungrateful Mary, and she looked trainable to me. And when she talks in Al-Anon, it's Grateful Mary. Anyway, she was 22 and I was 33, and that seemed about right. And so I got started on this training program, and but I got another year to wait. So I asked her to move in with me and start the California marriage. Well, she wouldn't do that. And I was afraid to go back to Vegas again in case they passed information between states and say, hey, you know, that guy's back again. But I'd never tried Mexico, so I asked her if she'd go to Mexico. Well, she wouldn't do that either. And so anyway, finally the year's up, and this is a young girl, and every young girl needs a honeymoon. I'm going to train her right. And so picked up the final decree. Final decree was April the 1st, Dick, your new birthday. And we got married on April the 2nd. Her mom and dad flew out here for the wedding, and also to babysit our son, who was born on March the 20th. So anyway, as soon as the wedding was over, they picked up the kid. He's 12 days old, and loaded Ungrateful in the car, and headed to San Clemente, Nixon country, another brilliant move, and got down there and checked into the hotel. I bought her dinner, and checked in the hotel, and I flipped on TV and watched a little TV. She went in the bathroom, changed pads a couple of times, used the breast pump a couple of times, came back out and flipped off the TV and went to sleep, and woke her up next morning about early and stopped with San Juan Capistrano on the way back and got her a cup of coffee and donut, and got back into Santa Ana and picked up the kid. He's 13 days old now. And so she picked him up, and then she moved right in with me. It was okay. So I dropped her and the kid off, and I went to the office and went to work. But she'd had her honeymoon, wasn't going to hang that one on me down the road. So Alkies are such romantics. And so anyway, we're married a little less than about 2 years. And I get home for lunch one day. It's part of the training program. And you go home for lunch. And she's not there. And here sits this damn note and a sandwich. Now, this doesn't make any sense. I'd a trainee, or she's a trainee. What the hell is it? So anyway, I got home tonight, and I said, you weren't home for lunch today. She said, no, I left you a note. And I said, where'd you go? She said, you went to a meeting. I said, I figured some damn bridge thing or some sorority thing or something. I said, what kind of a meeting? She said, Al-Anon. I said, what in the hell is Al-Anon? She said, that's a group of people that get together to have trouble with booze. I said, what kind of trouble you got with booze? You know, I thought maybe I'd married a closet drinker or something. And now she's trying to get dinner, and none of this makes any sense. And those folks have free pamphlets, and they have books, and she brought some of that crap home. And she brought this book out, and the name of the book, right out on the cover of the book, Living with an Alcoholic. I said, I looked at that. Now I got to be calm. I had a trainer. And I said, you know, as far as I know, when I come and go here every day, I'm the only guy coming and going. I thought that was good, Mike, right? And I said, the only thing I've seen that kid belt lately is milk. So by the simple process of elimination, I'm the alcoholic you're living with. She said, threw up her hand, she shook her head, she said, I'm not calling you an alcoholic. Now that's apparently the first rule they teach them over there. Don't ever tell him what he is, you know. So anyway, when she did that, I lost it completely. I'm shaking like a leaf. I said, damn, you don't insult my intelligence. And so I said, where'd you find out about this flaky organization? Who took you to this? She said, your lawyer. Well, I got thinking to do, and I think best when I drink. It's a bad combination, but I had to do it that way. So I got out my bottle and started on that lady's problem. And I got on that phone, and I thought I got him about midnight. Now he's alcoholic. He's been known to lie. And besides that, his lawyer and all of them lie. And he says it was about 2 in the morning when I finally got him. And he asked me a bunch of fool questions. It wasn't until I got to Alcoholics Anonymous 5 years later that I recognized it. The guy wasn't so damn smart. He sat there and read the 20 questions to me. I had 20 no's, and I hung up the phone. I said, well, I talked to my lawyer. I said, I'm not alcoholic. I said, where'd you go to this meeting? Laguna Beach. I said, it's still in Orange County. Go down at that damn sorority of sob sisters and tell about this alcoholic you're living with, ruined my reputation, pillar of this community. And I said, you continue to go to this flaky outfit. And I said, and I'll divorce you now. And I said, and what's more, you're only number 3, and I'm just getting wound up good. And I was never, ever a nice drunk. And I'm not proud of that, but that's what I told Ungrateful Mary. And when I go home tonight, if we make it till April the 2nd, we'll celebrate 45 years of marriage. And I don't know about you, but that's a new record for me. And she'll be happy to see me, and I'll be happy to see her. And I owe it to Alcoholics Anonymous and meetings like this and people like you, my brothers and sisters. Do I have 2 or 3 minutes? Yeah. Okay. My favorite page in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is on page 45. And on page 45 it has these words, lack of power was our dilemma. And the main reason this book was written is to help you find that power which will solve your problem. And then it says, and of course, we're going to be talking about God, capital G-O-D. And they don't say group as you understand him, or sponsor as you understand him, or doorknob as you understand him. They spit it out like it really is. And I don't know about you, Kevin, but I didn't want to hear that when I got here. Don't you talk to me about God. And I'm here to tell you that God is alive and well, and he'll get your attention in only a way that's meaningful to you. And he did it most dramatically in my life when I was sober, 2 years now, Alcoholics Anonymous. I got this call from my oldest daughter by my first wife. She had just completed her first year of college, and she said, Dad, I'd like to come to California and work in your office this summer. And I was delighted about that. And I owe that to you, and I owe that to Alcoholics Anonymous, because I didn't have a relationship with those first 4 older kids. And so she had been working out here about 6 weeks, and we were going to the office every day. Her mom was in the process of taking me back into the courtroom again for the records in my past. And my oldest daughter didn't want to be a part of that sick courtroom scene. She wanted a direct relationship with Dad, and I was pleased about it. So we're talking, and all of a sudden my daughter jumped up from the breakfast table, and she called me a couple of names and went storming out the back door. She got to the back door, and I heard the black door slam. Then I heard a blood-curdling scream. I thought, well, she's pulling a real bud, letting it all hang out now. And then the door opened, she came walking back in, holding out her left hand, and she had not gotten her hand out of the way in time. And she had chopped off 2 fingers. And so I got her sitting down, and then I got her lying down. I got some sterile dressing, and I wrapped her fingers. And I went to that back door, and I picked up those 2 fingers, and I got a styrofoam cup, and I put ice in it, and I put the fingers in a little sterile dressing, and then I put them in, and I put more ice on top of that, and I put it in my pocket, and called up this buddy of mine. Back then, they had, at that time, they had something like 383 members in the entire nation that belonged to a thing called the Hand Society. You don't just go down and join the Hand Society. You have to be asked to be a part of that. Anyway, a couple of those guys are buddies of mine. I knew this one guy, and I called him up, and he said, fine, buddy. He said, I'll meet you at the emergency room. So we got over there, and he took a look at it. He said, well, common accident. It happens every day. Car doors, house doors, filing cabinets, safes, you name it. Said, she's just going to end up with 3 fingers all the same size. I said, wait a minute, she's a very pretty girl. She's a young girl. She's got a long life ahead of her. She just finished her first year of college. And he said, look, buddy, he said, if she were, 2 or 3 years old, he said, I wouldn't hesitate to sew them back on. Sometimes in kids, they take. He said, she's an adult. They don't take. And I said, well, I've got them here, and they're cold, and they're clean. He said, all right, I can tell you're not buying this. He said, let's look at them. So he looked at me. He said, yeah, they're clean and they're cold. He said, okay. I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and sew them back on. But you got to understand this. Up front, they're going to go ahead and turn black and gangrenous, but it'll serve as a good biological dressing to keep from getting infected. And then down the road, we'll have to do a secondary repair. I said, well, at least you tried. And he said, okay. So he sewed them back on and put her in the hospital. And I spent the worst day of my entire life, drunk or sober, before or since. Because it all came down on me. All that guilt that only the alcoholic knows. What a lousy, rotten failure I've been as a father, as a husband, you name it. And Mary and that lawyer, they babysat me, and they listened to me whine and cry and not be able to work and everything. And they said, you're not angry. You weren't the one that was upset. You're not the one that slammed the door on her finger. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You didn't. I said, yeah. My head knows all of that. But down here in my gut, where alkies live, it says guilty. He stayed till about 1 o'clock and left. I never once thought about taking a drink, but I did consider suicide under the basis of all that guilt. So we went back to go to bed, and I did something I'd never ever done before. I got down on my knees beside that bed. And I said, God, I don't have to tell you what I want for my daughter's fingers. I said, you know that. But I want you to know this. Whatever you got in mind for her, whatever you got in mind for the fingers, I'm buying the package. I was able to crawl in that bed and go to sleep. And for those that you don't recognize that, that's called step 3. I'm sober 2 years in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I finally got around to it, made a decision to turn my will in my life over to the care of God. And I went to see her every day in the hospital, and they sent her home, and she'd have to go to the doctor's office every other day for a dressing change. She said, "Dad, you know, when I get to the doctor's office, he takes off the dressing, gets his camera and starts snapping pictures and just kind of shakes his head." And I said, "Sweetheart," I said, "you tell him that doctors only sew things back together. God heals them." And those fingers got to looking pinker and pinker and pinker. And a couple of years after that, she asked me if I would fly back east and march her down the aisle and give her away to this jackass she married. Pot-smoking, beer-drinking jackass. And I marched her down the aisle, and I watched that jackass put rings on fingers like fingers are supposed to look, with nails like nails are supposed to look. I didn't pinch anybody. I didn't punch anybody. I didn't insult anybody. And you, my brothers and sisters, would have been proud about that day. And that jackass has since made me the proud grandfather of 2 beautiful granddaughters and a grandson. And thanks for having me.